Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40. It is. Eric Crouch. 15, 10.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like this podcast. As always, we're your host Blake, my brother Brooks. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and follow us on X at @CHusker_corner. Back from the bye week. Had to take some time for mental health so we could kind of relax, rewind, and follow politics instead. Really get the blood pressure down.
Yes. At least we got a dub this week.
Depending on, yeah.
The first step towards a dub, as long as things go according to plan. But this isn't what you're here for. What you're here for is football. And I do think it's kind of interesting that this week has felt like this bye period has felt like a long time. It's felt like a mini off season. Because I just completely going into last week, all of my algorithms were all Nebraska football, giving me all that stuff. And then, of course, the election happened. And so I sort of pivoted. And so my algorithms are over there. And now it's sort of half and half. And I'm starting to get, because Dana was hired and there's a little more excitement, I'm starting to get back to the Nebraska algorithm.
But yeah, and there's a couple of reasons for that. You go into the bye week losing to a team that we didn't think we were going to lose to. We didn't really even recap that. And I don't really want to. Basically, here's my final thoughts on the game. You can give your final thoughts on it. All right. So my final thoughts are our offense completely anemic. Our defense has definitely taken a step back this year. They're not a bad defense, but they are not the shut them down kind of squad that we had last year. Our team is way too inconsistent to be good. And Dylan has not played well the past 3 games. He just hasn't. He missed open receivers in the Ohio State game that people don't remember because that game was so close and it wasn't supposed to be. Yeah, he missed a couple touchdown passes that were good, easy passes,
like plays that Sat had dialed up that he had to execute he didn't.
Again, and I think we talked about that the last time. But sure. He missed some people, held the ball a little bit too long. He was panicking when they were bringing blitzes. There were a couple times when he didn't have a lot of time, but you have to know if they're blitzing, somebody's open. He could have dropped it down to the check down all day, neutralized that blitz, and they wouldn't have had to run a screen pass.
And the good quarterbacks don't even it's not even they got to know that somebody's open. They know who's open. What I mean? Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Our checkdowns were open all day.
Yeah, they were.
I watched them, and you have Ramir out in space, or hell, even Dowdell out in space, and you're gonna have good things happen. So,
right.
And then I'm gonna say one positive. The team did show fight. We were down by 3 scores at one point.
Yeah.
So, they showed fight to come back. I really thought they were gonna do it. For a little bit. Harburg came in, because Rayla got hurt. Again, we had every opportunity to win the game too. They went for it on 4th and goal, and they dialed in a run like it was right into the blitz. It was horrible. And that happens in the NFL too. Happened with Caleb Williams this week, and I was like, oh my god, that looks like it's the same exact play.
And by the way, as a Houston fan, it's happened to Dana Holgerson at Houston as a head coach many times.
Many. So we had that opportunity, but the one after that, Dylan got hurt right on the goal line, not on the goal line, but in the red zone. And we ended up scoring that one. But then Heinrich came in for the rest of the game. You can say what you want. Small sample size. We will see how it is in like a whole game setting potentially this week. But mechanics look greatly improved. Ball placement looks greatly improved. Throws with velocity. Throws it in good places. That interception at the end of the game was just a fluke. Probably should have been caught by our receiver. I throw it through that in the perfect spot. I am a little bit. I'm a little bit more. I always like Harburg, but just from mechanics, footwork. I think his footwork is actually a little bit better than Dylan's at this point, from what I've seen. Again, small sample size. I'm not going to get over my skis here and say that
I would say like he does more of
Yeah.
the right things, but he's less natural at doing them. And Dylan
Yes.
does more of the wrong things, but he's more natural at doing them. You know what I
Yes.
mean? That's
Fair
pretty much,
enough.
accurate.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
But yeah, no, there were those couple good things. Missed an extra point. And UCLA this week coming off the bye, because I didn't really watch all that much football, but I did watch the game UCLA and Iowa, and they went in and beat Iowa. They have 3 more games left.
Let me hit on this here because, like, from a big picture perspective, this UCLA team, like, you just look at who they played. They were 2-5 going to us, but they had started catching a heater as a team, started to find their identity, and they really played every team they played close. So everyone said that going into the game, right? So we knew that they weren't going to be a bad team. But then this Iowa game that you just mentioned, I feel differently about the game now than I did a week. You know what
absolutely.
I mean? And yes, we still have a lot of things to fix. There's a lot of bad, but I do also want to shout out what you shout out as well. The heart. The team showed heart, and there's only been one game this entire year that they didn't show any heart. And yes, that's not the goal, but it's still good. You don't want your team to be given up. So
listen, one thing that we didn't hit on, but I had like a thought of, but I was just like, no, I think this coaching staff will get that taken care of. You come off a really close loss to Ohio State that you thought about all year, that you put everything into, and you didn't end up winning. It's still an emotional game. You're still on an emotional high from that week, and that can make you overlook some things going into the next one.
Yeah,
and I think there was a little bit of that going on.
No doubt.
That I just didn't think was going to be a problem. But
if the emotional spectrum of a normal college football team is about this big, the emotional spectrum of Nebraska is like this big. You know what I mean? We vary so much. And where normally Ohio State fans are looking at it and like their team is like this year, they're complaining about their team. But like in the grand scheme of things, every single year they are a steady force. You know what you're going to be getting out of Ohio State most weeks, right? And there's lots of teams that are examples of that. But with Nebraska, I mean, it's really been a tale of two teams this entire year. Matt Rule basically said the quiet part out loud the other day in his press conference. I mentioned this about Matt Rule, how I didn't love how he talked about how his teams tackle good and they play good defense and they play good enough offense. That's pretty much what he said in the offseason.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't like that. That's not what you aim for. Right. And I think he's, sort of realized that and said, okay, look, like the teams that have been my best teams have been with really good offenses. So we got to have a really good offense. And that's why Dana's here. So
yeah. And so anything else on the UCLA game before we move on to that news? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Matt Rule making some moves this week. One of the things actually coming off the UCLA game that you were really heated about, you were ready like throw in the towel on Matt Rule because you're like, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to make any changes. So this is definitely, at least for you and your perspective, how do you feel about this move, especially having the insight we do with Dana being,
Yeah. Let me cook here for a second. It's just like, okay. So like, because that emotional spectrum that I just described about Nebraska also applies to me as a fan as well. Like most fans are about here. Earlier this year, I was talking about how we're number 6 and how we're making the playoff and Raiola is going to be in the top 10 finishing the Heisman, all the stuff. Right. And then, the season played out and it was like, same old crap, right? We're sitting here at 5-4 and there's easily fixable problems that are not being addressed. That's how I saw it. Right. And I also said this when Rule was hired. Okay. I said, we have to be strict about this because it's a results-based business. And I'm not going to sit around here for my whole life. Please, Nebraska, keep winning. I'm not going to do that my whole life. So it's a results-based business. I said 2 years. We should know in 2 years if he's the guy or if he's not the guy. Now, I know we can't definitively say he's not the guy, right? But we can't definitively say he's the guy yet either. I mean, and matter of fact, it's trending the other way. I mean, I'm not saying it's that way, but it was trending the other way. So this was an important, and Rule knew that. Okay. He's not stupid. He knows for this whole time he's been the coach, one thing that he's done the best is he's had his finger on the pulse of the fan base really, really well. When he comes out and he addresses the media, he always addresses things that he knows the fans are concerned about. Like he's really good about that. So making this move, he knew he had to make it. And when he first came in, I was like a half measure, I'm a graduate of U of H. I experienced Dana Holgorsen the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's things about his character I don't love, but I was like, bring him in to be the OC. So when he brought him in to be like what was it? What do you call it? Consultant. When he brought him in to be a consultant, I was like, that's kind of a half measure. I don't love it.
Yeah.
But it was obvious that like he was bringing him in to see how the fit was, because it was going to be a mid-season thing. He's got to make sure he's going to trust this guy. He's going to bring a guy in mid-season, see how the fit is, see how he wants to handle the SAT situation, all of the above. And now he's the OC. He made the right decision. So the rest of the season just got really interesting to me. That's what I'll say. He turned that tide in my brain for sure right now.
Yeah. So. So one thing I will say about all this, it was coming off the bye, right? They almost immediately you knew that he was bringing him in on a consulting basis. You have to think the news just broke that he was going to be OC, right? You have to think that they had 2 weeks to do this. He came in, said, "What would you do differently?" He liked what he heard, and he goes, "Okay, we're doing that then." And so he's been OC now for more than a week,
right?
So he's, it's
plenty
just
of
how it has
time.
to happen. Plenty of time. But no, that's how it had to happen, right? I'm glad that he did. He didn't completely disrespect SAT because, again, they are friends. So he's still going to be on staff, which I think is a little awkward. But he's gone. He's all but fired. He even kind of said it in his press conference. He said, "Well, it's literally about the next 3 games."
Right.
And he's like, "And listen, I know that like coaches are going to start getting hired and stuff." And he wanted to be like, "Well, I think I wanted to, hire him at the end of the season anyways. So let's see how it goes and see if we can get some momentum going through this year and then into next year." And that is exactly what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And he even said that. He was like, "I don't know if he's going to want to. I don't know how this is going to work out for this." He's like, "But we had to do something. And I really think that Dana's going to be a good fit. So we'll see."
We'll see. We will see. I just think it's kind of interesting, the SAT staying around. It is unique. But I also want to think about the fact that the environment that Rule has built just in the program and around the staff is also unique. The sort of family feel of the environment. And it's a little bit like if you're staying in your parents' house and they want to kick you out and they're like, but we're your parents. So, you'll just pay us a small amount of rent for a little period of time before we kick you out. You know what I mean? And that's something I have a very familiar experience with. It's a little like that. So it's not, it doesn't surprise me, to be honest. And from Sat's perspective, like these are all his dudes. He's known them, worked with them forever. It is what it is, results-based business. It is what it is.
I know I'm not going to go so far as saying like he's a smart guy. He knew it was coming. But he's a guy. He knew it. He could have seen what's coming.
He's a guy.
He's a guy. He's a guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he seems like he'd be a fun guy to go fishing and have a beer with. But he didn't strike me as like the offensive beacon of light that everybody needs to be looking towards, which is what the offensive coordinator should be on the cutting edge. Is what the offensive coordinator is.
And that same thing. Like some people just aren't fit for certain positions, and that's what I'll say about Dana. We'll get into him now. So Dana, I mean, I got to watch him when he was the head coach of Houston. Rule first was introduced to him when he was, I think, on the Oklahoma State staff as the OC quarterback coach in the Oklahoma State, and then he was with West Virginia, and that's when he actually coached against him. Dana's teams were very inconsistent in Houston. Had one really, really good year where they went to the conference championship game, didn't win, but they played that really, really good Cincinnati team, the one that probably should have made the playoffs but didn't, and then the next year they played them and they probably shouldn't have, but but he was kind of there during that time. very inconsistent play, but when it was humming, it looked pretty good.
Right.
And Dana's problem, I don't think, has ever been football knowledge. It's always been distractions.
Yeah,
there's some
100%.
stories
Oh, yeah.
that I know that we can't really say.
Yeah.
That's just like, ew.
Oh yeah. Dana's a wild man. He's a wild man.
He's a wild guy.
Yeah.
But again, and that I don't think that translates to being a good head coach.
No.
I do think he is a really good football mind. Studied under some really great coaches. So you have to give him his due. So I think coordinator in Lincoln, Nebraska for right now, it could be a really good fit for him.
Could be. And I think as a head coach, Dana suffered from a little bit of Lincoln Riley syndrome in the sense of like he struggled always to have a consistent defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then he struggled with a little bit of Scott Frost syndrome as well, where he always wanted to take over the playbook, when it's like, you're the CEO, you're the head coach. But as an offensive coordinator and from an offensive philosophy standpoint and schematically and everything, he's not the same, but to me, like offensively, schematically, he's on the same level as Lincoln Riley, like someone like that. He's like very impressive offensively. Look at his record. Mm-hmm. He very much is. He's a country bumpkin, Lincoln Riley, who doesn't recruit. That's his biggest problem. He doesn't recruit. He's really good at seeing traits in players. He's actually got a good mind for recruiting. He just doesn't recruit though.
It takes work.
Yeah, it takes work. Exactly. So that gives you an idea of who we're talking about here. But Tank Dell, like these people that he's found that do not have, like, Tank Dell is tiny. You would never like.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that's why a lot of people passed up on him. But now he's playing for the Houston Texans and he's good.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and he, and we'll see how his career plays out. He is very small. We'll see how injury prone he is. But yeah, that's the thing about Dana. He's got a very good mind. He doesn't like to recruit. He's got a little bit of off the field issues, but he's getting older. He's in his 50s. Maybe he'll outgrow that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, offensive schematic wise, couldn't have made a better pick. Literally could not have made a better pick. So it's exciting.
And listen, it's what the team I think needs just to show, because even if they won't admit it, your players know kind of what issues are. They're not stupid. I mean, you can see like stuff in the building. You can be like, oh no, he does tell us that we're just not doing X, Y, and Z. And again, just knowing football, you see some of that, right? Sat would call good plays sometimes and they weren't executed on, but that wasn't the issue. Execution was never the issue. It was the play call at the time. He had no situational awareness. And again, he had spurts here and there because everybody, broken clock is right twice a day. So like, it happens, but that he just wasn't the thing. So they have to say like, oh, okay, everybody's accountable here. We have to keep grinding, keep pushing. And I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. And Dana's, oh, sorry, go ahead. You're not done with
go ahead. And I think it's really interesting that we could go into next year with a new defensive coordinator and a new offensive coordinator. That's really interesting. Depending on where Tony White goes.
I mean, what's Tony White got to be thinking, right? He's had a top 15-ish defense both years, and we're the same record. He's probably frustrated because, like, if we were better, the opportunities would be everywhere for him. But yeah, I mean, you were a quarterback in high school with a bad play caller at off, to say the least. Yeah, so like, you putting a quarterback. Like, the play caller has got to put the quarterback in a position to succeed, and he's got to do that at all times, especially with a freshman. You got to hit at a very high clip, putting him in a good position when you're calling for a freshman quarterback, right? When you're calling for a senior quarterback, sometimes that experience can make up for some of those things. But when you're calling a freshman quarterback, like, you as an offensive coordinator can call things into that the quarterback might not even notice. You know what I mean? Things that just play out and some guy's open and the quarterback executes. He didn't know why he was open, but he was just open, and that happens. So it's like when I was a catcher and I went into high school baseball and I started having to deal with coaches calling pitches. I thought that was the stupidest thing in the world. I was like, we're the ones out here. Y'all don't know anything, yada, yada, yada. And then as it played out, I realized, oh no, like, the coach knows what pitch is good for what situation. That's why he's the coach. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a combination of both. And I
Yep.
think just at this point, there's a good, again, on the bye week, you have 2 weeks to prepare for a kindly middle of the road defense at USC.
We'll be
And
bigger than them. Oh, we'll be bigger than them. Yeah.
you think, okay. I mean, we're
No,
going to get
we
into
will.
that.
We absolutely will. That's their big problem. Their biggest defensive lineman's like 285 pounds.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're not a
Okay.
big team. That's their big issue.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's see. Any other thoughts on the Holgerson stuff?
No, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Results-based business. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
too excited about anything until I see stuff. You know?
Yeah, no, great time to make that change.
Yeah,
3
agreed.
games left. You can sprint through the finish line, just kind of how I said last time that they had the opportunity to do. But 3 games
Yeah.
left, you can sprint through the finish line. You can end at 8-4, and that would be great.
Now
Or
is
8-4, 7-5.
Now is the time in the run where you take the podcast off and you turn the music on and you go hard for the final mile or whatever it is. Yeah.
All right, and that begins with USC.
Yeah.
So USC is not having the year they want, to say the least. They started off the year beating LSU, and nobody thought that was really going to happen.
No.
Especially LSU. The same things. We're sitting here.
he is such a pompous ass.
Oh
bro.
my
I
God,
hate Kelly.
Yeah, I know.
I hate
me
him.
too. But no, Lincoln Riley has. We said on our preview that I think some of the hype for their defense specifically, and I'm throwing this out from the year. I'm not saying what we're going to do to them, because I am not confident in us for consistency purposes to say anything remotely braggadocious. But in terms of their season, their defense has been almost the same exact thing that they were last year. Undersized, out of position, and just completely bad.
Yeah.
And then
tackling
on the
a little better. A little
a little
like,
better.
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, so and then on the offensive side of the ball, they're turning the ball over. They have a decent run game, but then they'll have their quarterback will, make Adrian Martinez level plays, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And they're actually making the change at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Hit on that.
Yeah.
But the defense specifically, I mean, Lincoln Riley has to be kind of like, okay,
well, they got speed.
again.
They got speed.
Oh,
if they want to, if they want to just play man on us and we can't handle that, that might be a possibility. So because they got speed on the perimeter. I mean, Zachariah. I mean, we were talking about defense, but Zachariah Branch on offense is probably, to me, like the most talented slot receiver. Talented. In college football, maybe, Ryan Williams, all those types of guys. He's not on a team that really accentuates him well right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so fast. Like seeing him for the first time reminded me of the first time I saw Wan'Dale Robinson touch the ball, where it was like, oh, that dude's different. That dude's different than everybody else. And that's how Zachariah Branch is. He's different. He does all their punt returning. He's number one. His number is number one. And he's a really good player. And then Jordan Mayava. And let's hit on that offense. Jordan Mayava. Well, I don't know anything about him. Do you know anything about him?
Nope. And that scares me.
Yeah, me as well, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, they made the switch at quarterback from Miller Moss. And how do you pronounce his name?
Jordan Mayava, I think is his name. Jordan Mayava.
He played at UNLV last year, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of tape on him there.
Yep. He hit the transfer portal and almost went to Georgia, but then went to USC. So that just tells you
that tells you that like he's not a schlub.
Yeah.
So it makes me a little nervous, just because it sets Nebraska up again to lose to technically a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And it just like, because 3 years ago, one of those, we lost to
Minnesota. Was it
Minnesota?
Yeah.
With a backup quarterback.
Yeah. It was Anthony Kaliakmanis. I mean,
and the week after that, or before that, we lost to a backup quarterback at Purdue. It happened 2 times in a row, and I was like,
that backup was Aiden O'Connell. Like, that's the thing, bro. Like, that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, these backups come in and you never know who they are.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. But it's just setting it up to kind of be like, not again.
Think
Not
about
again.
that
'Cause they're-
though.
they're-
I mean, like
they're
Purdue,
playing
we
for
play
their
Purdue.
coaches.
They put their backup in, and it's freaking Aiden O'Connell. Then we play Minnesota. The Tanner Morgan, he's pretty good or whatever. He goes down. They put their backup in, and it's freaking Ethan Kaliak-Menace, who's not great, but like he's been a quintessential Big Ten
Yeah,
quarterback.
he's been a starter since.
Yeah, he has.
Ever has gone,
We
so-
played him this year. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So you just have to look at it and be like, that makes me scared.
Yeah.
They're playing. They have no margin for error, really, in terms of trying to get to a bowl. They are playing for their coach's job.
Yeah.
And how the winds change, man. I mean, Lincoln Riley had everything in Oklahoma, everything he could have wanted. When he went there, I think we talked about it like off the podcast, and we're just like, what a dummy. Nobody's been able to win there since Pete Carroll. Nobody has. They're Texas, but
He had everything. He had everything in Oklahoma except for scenic drives.
Scenic drives. Yeah.
There is not one scenic drive in all of Oklahoma. It's known for that.
Yeah. But now it's just kind of looking like the Lincoln Riley experiment is if he doesn't have an elite quarterback, he's kind of screwed.
Pretty much.
Like, and I'm talking about elite. I'm not talking about good. I'm talking about elite because he's at an elite quarterback play his entire head coaching career. Yeah. Like, if you just look at
what a luxury.
Baker Mayfield, then he had Kyler Murray, then he had Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Then he had that little stretch with Spencer Rattler, but then he replaced him with
immediately with Caleb Williams. Yeah,
I mean,
crazy. He was like, "You're not good enough." And Spencer Rattler was like, what, a second-round pick or something? Like,
yeah. Well, third, I think. But and he's
had the goods,
Yeah, he had the goods, not the attitude.
Obviously, yeah.
But like, dang, dude.
I tell you, if I was Matt Rule, what I would do going into this game, just to throw everybody for a loop, is I would start Gavin Wimsatt. We all forgot he was on the team, the NAIA quarterback player of the year, who's been running our scout team.
Is it Graham? I thought his name was Graham. Graham Wamstat?
No, Gavin Wimsatt. It's not Gavin Newsom.
It's not.
Is it Gavin
Gramstat?
No.
Gramstat.
Gavin Wimsatt is the quarterback for Kentucky.
Yeah, what the hell are you pull that from?
Who is this kid?
Gramstat.
What is his name again? What is his full name?
Last name.
What is his full name? We're going to look it up right now. Gramstad. Jalen Gramstad. That's right.
Okay, I almost said Jalen. I was like, it can't be Jalen because I have a bunch of Jalens on my Eagles.
Illustrates my point so well. We all forgot this dude was on the team. All forgot this dude was on the team. And the thing that was sort of buried in all of the headlines is that Dylan Raiola is questionable. And now
all last week.
And now the new offensive coordinator we hired is an air raid disciple of Mike Leach. so
that needs a running quarterback.
Yeah, and Dana likes to establish the run. He did it so much that it was kind of annoying sometimes. So like if you're worried about him running, he's going to run the ball, okay? Mm-hmm. But it sort of does make me double take, and it's like, yo, I'm not at practice, but that Jalen Gramstad kid does have the pedigree. And you never know. Some kids are gamers, man. Some kids are just gamers. But anyway,
I mean, so yeah.
Let's get back to reality.
Let's get back to reality. If I had to bet, if you had to place money on it right now, who do you think starts?
Dylan Raiola.
Really, you do think so?
Yeah, I do.
See, I don't think he's going to be healthy enough. I don't think he's going to be healthy enough. They might say like, okay, you're going to start. He might go in for a series or two, look horrible, and they're going to be like, okay.
I guarantee what Dana said when he came in. He looked at Dylan, said, okay. Then he looked at Heinrich and said, that fucking kid can't throw. I'm telling you. And he said it in those exact words too. So like, I'm sorry. I like Heinrich, but like, he's just not a natural. He doesn't have like those natural mechanics. He throws piss missiles at all times. And it's kind of interesting, right? It's the exact opposite problem of Dylan. It's the exact
Dylan needs to
opposite
put
problem.
some oomph on the ball.
Like if you're a wide receiver, you probably feel like the quarterback room is a bunch of schizophrenics because one of the balls is floated and nice and easy to catch, and then the next ball is going at 100 miles an hour, tipped down. Yeah. So I mean, I think but I do think Heinrich is a gamer that can win games and has sort of a leadership factor type quality to him. So I'm not diminishing that, but he's just much less versatile for a new offensive coordinator.
But listen, here's what I'm thinking. Dylan is not 100%. He's just not. He didn't practice all last week. Just from body language, it doesn't look like he's gonna go. Rule did not. Right. Like it didn't. I didn't get that vibe. He did not seem confident. Right.
Yeah.
He had a back injury that was like seizing. That takes longer to get over. It just does. I get that all the time. Whenever that happens to me, it takes about a month to get over.
Remember when we were at Prairie Life and you were taking free throws? You were like, Mom, our mom was like our basketball coach when we were young, and we would go to Prairie Life, which was like the YMCA basically by our house in Kansas. And she would say, 7 out of 10 free throws, and then we'll go home, like at the end of the training session or whatever. And you were trying to get your free throws. And I just remember it was at the end of the thing. And I just remember that you get up to the free throw and you just go, and just completely fall flat on your back. And it's because you're having back spasms due to being dehydrated is what we figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back is a weird thing, it is.
Thing, man. It is, especially like your quarterback. Yeah. You have to be able to twist. Yeah. That exact motion is just like, it doesn't fill me with a bunch of confidence. So when you're thinking about that, and then he also on top of that, it's not like he was playing at a really good level. We mentioned at the top of the show, he has not been playing well. So you add that on top, and you're just like, he needs to be healthy. He can't have other things on his mind because he's thinking about that. He just is. So
my senior year of high school, I was having back problems. And I was in the training room, and one of my teachers, who was a great dude, actually, I remember him, good guy, but just like very blunt and to the point type guy. I was like, I'm having back issues, man. And he just looks at me with a completely straight face and goes, lose 10 pounds. And I was like, maybe you're right. And there's something to be said about when I turn over to Minister Sports and they talk about Dylan Raiola, they call him Fatty Mahomes. I mean, lose 10 pounds.
They're gonna get that correct.
Yeah, he's a freshman, man. He's a freshman. Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
That's just where I am.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as the week goes on, it might be different. It's Tuesday when we're recording this. But just from how Rule sounded, how he looked, I don't think he's ready. And I think it's going to be Harburg.
Or Jalen Group Chat.
Or it's not going to be
people talk about Danny Kalen, though. And I'm like, okay, I just don't think they would play him. Look, I'm not at practice, so maybe Jalen Gramstad's terrible, and I just don't know. But like, bro, somebody who's had a real college experience like that, they're gonna be able to do a couple of things for you. You know what I mean? Like they just are. Those easy throws that are just like a dump off right there, he's gonna be able to do that. But I'm not at practice, so I'm just here theorizing. You never know.
Yeah. No, you're right. But that's just where I stand right now. At least offensive side of the ball. And on defense, we had a couple guys that were banged up that, thank goodness for like a bye week. I would like to see an update on them. I mean, Tommy Hill's been dealing with that issue.
Sure,
but he actually played last game. I didn't notice him, but I knew he was in, which is always a good thing if you don't notice somebody and they're in the game.
At that position.
Yeah. Malcolm Hartzog. He got injured. A couple of guys on the defensive line, and little banged up, but they were playing through it. So bye week to get a little healthier.
Always good
on that side of the ball. Always good. And they need to fix their spottiness. They're getting gashed on deep, long throws. And that is not good when you're playing a team that wants to throw it long.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like the defense this year has had moments, quarters, halves, games, whatever you want to call it, where they were better than last year this year. But then they've also had games where they were way worse than they ever were last year.
Yeah.
There was just so much as that unit was just so much more consistent last year. They had that one bad game, and it was against, you know, the national champion of the year, Michigan.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everywhere else they're consistent.
I know we were
this year.
And we were like, I rewatched that game before the season started, and I was like, oh damn, this wasn't really a blowout before until like a couple minutes before halftime. Like at halftime, like it didn't listen, it didn't feel like we were in the game. I'm not gonna say that. But we were so like, we had been drinking all day at that point, and I was just like, I don't really remember this.
Oh, I do. I mean, I just remember the guys.
I just remember the feeling.
I remember they were playing hard. They were almost making a bunch of plays.
They were almost making,
you know,
a bunch of
they
plays.
were.
Yeah.
That's how it was. But they didn't. They weren't making them, and then Michigan was making them. So, so it was like, it wasn't like they were completely lost out there. They just were almost making a bunch of plays. It's like no. But like that catch to Roman Wilson was like miraculous. So that's when I knew the game was over. Yeah. Like, and it was their first touchdown of the game or second touchdown of the game or something. It was their
first touchdown.
Yeah. I was like, this game's over. We're not, if they're going to make plays like that, we're not going to be able to. Simple as that. But yeah, so that's the funny thing about college football, man. Sometimes it's an enigma and you don't know why something happened. And other times it just boils down to like recruit your team. Like that's what Coach Bush always says. Like you recruit the players and the players make your team. So recruit really good players. Simple as that. Right. Yeah. But then there's sometimes that doesn't quite add up 100%. Look at Indiana, man. Look at Indiana. Like if there's any team this year that flies in the face of Bill's hypothesis, it's Indiana. And we'll see how that plays out. Very interested in the rest of their season. They play Ohio State this week. But anyway, let's get to our own game predictions, right?
Yeah, predictions. Let's go. Let's do it. So this USC squad, they also had. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to mention before we get into that. Do you know how many teams have been able to have bye weeks before they play us this year?
Oh yeah, like all of them.
Like it's wild, right? Yeah,
like
that's
every
on
single
purpose.
Team we played in the last 4 weeks.
Like, geez, dude. Rutgers got it, Indiana got it, Ohio State got it, UCLA got it, and now USC.
Yep. Well, UTEP got it as well. They had a very, very long bye week before they played us.
Okay. You're right. Yeah. They actually changed head coaches during their bye. It was really weird.
Yeah, crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
But no, I had that thought, and I was just like, "Oh my god, people just got so much time to prepare
for
us
sure
in this
bullshit.
stretch." Yeah.
But it's hard, right? Because we got 18 teams in the conference. Everybody's got to cycle through to play each other. So things like that are going to happen.
How many of them?
Let me ask you this. Would you rather play UCLA coming off of a bye or Oregon coming off of anything? That's the point. Oregon. It's like they looked more at like, who are the powers right now? Let's give each team one or two of those teams every year. And that's it. Let's make sure nobody gets more than one or two of those big power teams. And then from then on, everything else is like, man, it's hard to, I mean, so yeah, I get it. I mean, shit, dude, 4 teams in a row coming off bye weeks, bullshit. Yeah. And then here's another one, but at least we're coming off a bye week as well.
Yeah.
But it hasn't helped us in the past.
Yeah. But like our buys didn't help us. The team
that we suck at bye weeks.
Yeah. But that's also the team that we're preparing for also has a bye week. So it's not like it gets us like that.
Yeah,
edge,
exactly.
You know,
exactly.
That's what
totally
I'm really mad about that. But that being said, we're going into USC. We're traveling to USC, so it's going to be, good weather, hopefully. So something that our team isn't used to at this time of the year. And I really wish it was happening in Lincoln. But so we have that. But dude,
I just thought of a hilarious scenario. Where the game's playing out. We're like killing them. It's going to be awesome. Yada, yada, yada. Gets midway through the third quarter. And then the big one happens. The San Andreas Fault lets off and all of California slips into the ocean. And I'm like, we can never get a win.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had to make a California joke.
So I think, unfortunately, again, Lincoln Riley just has too much on the line. He has too much time to prepare. He's going to expose our weaknesses. I think some of their weaknesses, what strengths are our weaknesses in terms of like the pass game specifically, and getting like playmakers out in space. And then on the offense, I think our offense will come out and play a little better just because they haven't really shown that they can really shut down a really good offense. And I'm not saying we're a really good offense, but I think the opposite could actually happen too, to where you come out and are like, oh wow, yeah, USC's defense playing really well today. Like you're gonna hear the commenters be like,
Yep.
they really have, they've really bunkered down though. They've come to play today.
Nope,
I hear that. If I hear that when I'm talking about their defense, I'm gonna put my head through a wall. But that being said, I can't. This team is too inconsistent to bet on right now.
Yeah.
Especially coming off the Ohio State game, I really thought we were going to win out. I really, really did.
USC
really
is an
did.
8.5 point favorite, though.
I know.
That's a lot. That's a lot, in my opinion. That's a lot.
Yeah, you know why? Because nobody wants to bet on Nebraska because we're too inconsistent. You never know what team you're getting.
But 8.5, Nebraska always plays close. They've only had one game this year where they don't play close. They've only had one game really in about 2 years. 2 games, about 2 years that they haven't played close.
Yeah.
3 years. Scott Frost.
That point and a half is the Lincoln Riley of it all, I think.
Yeah, probably.
That's where that, because 7 would probably be a little bit more fair in my book. Yeah. But I am picking USC. And I think they're going to win probably. Let's go with 31-17.
31-17 USC. That's quite a spread. Well, there's no.
After I said 8.5 is a little much.
It's quite a spread. It's a little much, but I'm going to pick double that. But anyway, so basically this game is Lincoln Riley versus his inbred half brother Dana Holgerson, and we'll see how it plays out. The good thing is that I do feel like our defense can come through for us in a game like this, where they have the decided advantage in the trenches. And yes, at a little bit of a disadvantage on the perimeter. And who the hell knows what Jordan Maeva is? That's the unspoken thing. Based on your score prediction, seems like he's going to be pretty good, and seems like we're going to find out. Could be. But also the story of the game could be, it was just a couple of schematic changes needed. And now we got Ja'Cory Barney running for 3 80-yard touchdowns or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, Ja'Cory is the first name that I thought of too with Dana, because he really does like to use those small-bodied, quick, fast wide receivers. But anyway, I think it's going to be a close game. And I think we're going to win. I'm going to predict us to win, because you know what? I'm not going to sit here and just predict us to lose, because this is the game I think we got the most chance to win out of the rest of them.
And we have more riding on this game than they do. I know I've said a couple times they have a lot riding on it. Yeah, we have more riding on this than they do.
We do. It's starting to get to the point where the pressure is mounting for this team. That's what happens when you don't win, especially when it's like goals start to get knocked off the board one by one, and all of a sudden you only got 2 of them left or whatever. Yeah. It's like, oh shit. All right. Well, we gotta play good. Yeah. So I do think it's going to be a little bit of a shit show of a game. It just feels like it's going to be a shit show of a game. First of all, USC, most of their games this year have been that way. And Nebraska, we've had our shit show games as well. So, and then we're playing on the road. It was a big thing talking this whole year about the decided advantage, the team going all the way across the country. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a shit show, but I think we'll win. I do. By like a point. I'm going to say 14-13, literally.
Really?
Right. Yeah. It's going to be like that.
Like a normal Big Ten West game.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let me say, there you have it. So you pick a win, I pick a loss. So it's a normal week here. I'm just looking at our, our predictions here, and just from the season. And the last time I predicted a loss, we won at Rutgers when we played Rutgers. And then, that's the last. I'm just miscounting Ohio State because that was just
Yeah, this doesn't count. But you predicted to win against Indiana. You predicted to win against Illinois, right? Illinois, you predicted to win. Yeah, you predicted to win against UCLA, obviously, and yeah. So you are not a great predictor. So that's good. That's good for us this game.
Well, yeah, but we'll see. My record prediction is still on track, though.
Yeah, mine can't happen anymore.
Yeah, yours can't happen. Mine's still...
it technically could. It's just we only predicted regular season. If we're saying win total, if we were going to base it on win total, and you said 8 total, and I said 9, well, then if we went out and win our bowl game, then I'm right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, no. So we need. I really want to win these next 3 games.
But yes.
No, I heard you. No, we need to win these next 3 games. If we can 2 out of the 3, that would give a lot of hope for next year. It would end the bowl drought. It would and that would go wonders for the program, for recruiting. We need it for recruiting. We're already starting to lose a little momentum there. So we need to win because he's had good recruiting classes based on hope, but now results are the only thing that matter. So they need to get down and they need to do it. But yeah, anything else before we head out here? No. All right. Well, that
big,
is
like top 5 recruit looking like he might pick Alabama.
Yeah.
What did you say? What? Yeah. We're on a delay right now. I was just saying Dawson Merritt might flip, and that's a big deal. But that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, just remember, like the video. Like the video.
Podcast.
Okay. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on
I'm trying to time this. Podcast. Podcast.